Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few things, make sure that we have everything that we need for this interactive wine tasting with the winemakers. So when you place your order of the 2019 Double Barrel Chardonnay, you should have also received several of these scoring sheets. Now, if you don't have your bottle or if you didn't receive enough scoring sheets, there are links below to both of them. You can either place your order and you can also download more of the scoring sheets. One more note before we get started is it's really important not to taste the wine yet. There's a portion throughout the experience that we will get to. Now, if you already did, that's okay. But just hold off on that next sip until the winemakers walk you through it. You get there. So with that, enjoy yourselves, and I'll pass you off to Jasper and Fabian.
Hey guys, thank you for buying and tuning in to this virtual tasting session. So Fabian and I are here now. Looks like it's getting close for Christmas Eve for everybody, so I hope you're ready to enjoy this. What we're going to do today is something really unique. So this is Double Barrel Chardonnay. So from our Angle Vineyard, so it's a state-grown, a proprietary-grown fruit from us. And this is something that we absolutely love to show you because it's something totally unique for us. Fabian, you want to cover a little bit about why we're calling it Double Barrel and some of those aspects of the wine itself?
Yeah, sure. So you've had our Reserve Chardonnay probably, and that has a little bit of oak exposure to it. This one, we kind of intensified that oak exposure. So we took the Reserve Chardonnay and just extended the time on oak, giving you more of that like kind of subtle tannin structure from the oak, a little bit more vanilla flavor, a little heavier char, a little more mouthfeel. One of my favorite wines we've produced for sure, just because I do like a lot of wood flavors. My dad, lumber and all that. So this is definitely one of my favorite wines that we've produced. Yeah, anything else you can add to that?
No, I think it's a couple of things. So what we're going to do today is bust out these awesome handy dandy tasting sheets that you guys are going to have. So we're going to show you how we score wine, how we're going to go through wine and kind of talk through it and show you. And this is something that we'll eventually be rolling out for all of our tastings and our tasting rooms. We're going to take this and clean it up and change it around a little bit. So a little prototype version you guys get to see first, so kind of sneak peek for you. But another thing, if you haven't paid attention to the back of the bottle of the wine on any of our reserves, something we call truth in winemaking. So some of these facts are going to be here for you, which is kind of cool. So some of the things I want to point out real quickly is it's going to be 100% fruit Chardonnay from our Forbidden Desert Vineyard there in Angle. So 30-plus-year-old vines. This harvest date was 8/21, so August 21st of 2019. The bricks at harvest were 23 bricks. The finished alcohol was 13%. We only did 200 cases of this. It is 100% Chardonnay. The vintage is 2019. Give you some of my notes over here, which we're about to go over together and see if they've changed from when we tasted it first and what it is now in the bottle. Then notice we always give you that body down here and also where we give it on a dryness scale. And one thing to point out is we said this wine was a little closer to off dry, but that was just slowly from a sensory standpoint. It's not from a residual sugar standpoint. This is bone dry. However, that extra vanilla and coming through from the oak, I think really shows it to be a little more subtle, which is kind of unique because the vanilla actually makes it taste less dry to some people, to some drinkers. So be interesting to how it affects you. So we're gonna jump right into the scoring sheet and show you how it works, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Fabian this, let him do the honors in opening our bottle here. And if you haven't opened a bottle and you're not comfortable, Fabian will show you. As he is a pro, he's only opened 100,000 or so of these in his life. And what I'll start walking you through is your scoring sheet. So I'm gonna put the wine here. So I'm gonna say that this is my 2019 Double Barrel Chardonnay. I'm gonna put my vintage year and I'm gonna put the date that I'm scoring this. Because if you wanna score a wine multiple times over and over again, it's kind of cool to see how it changes for you, see how your tastes change, and see what maybe was influenced it or how the wines changed over time. So if you're one of our club members and maybe you've taken a couple cases of something, you want to try it over the course of years, that's where that date's gonna make an important factor to you. So the first thing we're gonna do once we get in the glass, and one of the things cool about this, guys, is we're gonna show you how we would score it at competition. So Fabian and I, if we were judging a competition professionally, we'll show you one of the formats that they'll use for scoring. So kind of fun for you guys to have at home because you can do a little scoring here on top of your own sort of century. So with this, one of the cool things we did, check it out, is you have this kind of white blank slate here, down here. So you can assess your physical characteristics of the wine over this white background if you want to. So what we're looking for is we're looking for impurities in the wine. So maybe we're looking for pieces of cork or pieces of some lees that wasn't filtered out if it was an unfiltered wine, or maybe something that shouldn't be in there. Maybe it's hazy. Maybe there's something wrong with the wine. We're hoping if we're making it, that's not one of the things we're finding, but something that you're looking for when you're trying alcohol. And we're also checking out the color, because the color is going to tell you a lot about the wine. So with that, you guys, let's let Fabian tell you a little bit about the wine and what we're about to get into here in the glass as far as looking at this wine. And the first thing is that optical sensory of what it is for you.
So when I look at a white wine, I'm typically looking, of course, at the color. If it's, let's say, a 2020 Chenin Blanc, chances are it hasn't seen any oxidation. Oxidation is going to happen basically to anything that has fruit. So if you imagine an apple, you take a bite of an apple, you see it change from white color to brown over time. So that happens with wine as well. So 2017 Chardonnay could potentially get darker color, maybe a little bit more browning. But that's only going to tell you if it's seen oxygen, potentially also oak. And if we're barrel aging our Chardonnay, that's also going to allow oxygen to pass through the barrel, creating a darker color. The only other thing I'm looking for is when I swirl it, how viscous it is, looking at the legs, which really doesn't tell me much except for maybe that it has some residual sugar or alcohol. It doesn't tell you much more than that. So don't get too caught up on the legs, but definitely use the paper to kind of analyze and see how clear and crisp it is, the color it is, and yeah, that's basically what I'm looking for whenever I'm analyzing for visual wines.
Yeah, for me, when I get into this, like right away, if you pour it in my glass and I know what it is, I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna say, well, this is older white wine or it's Chardonnay. Because Chardonnay standardly sees oak, most white wine does not. So that's one of the things that I'm gonna personally know, just because I've been around the wine. Now, there are a lot of wines from across the world, because I know there's somebody watching this that drinks something else. Like, well, that's this color. And yes, I agree with you. But for us, being in the Americas, and drinking a lot of American wine and a lot of wine made in the Southwest, our standard color patterns is we're going to see something this color. We're thinking it's older. We're thinking it's Chardonnay, because it does have that golden kind of hue to it. So let's walk back over, and we're going to fill out this first section. So under number 1 on your paper, we're going to go in here and we're going to fill it out. And then we'll come back in and compare. Notice there's also stars on the bottom. So you can say ooh, I didn't like the color, I didn't like what I saw. Maybe I saw something in there. It looked brown, it looked gross, it looked hazy. That's a 1, or maybe I don't give it a star there. Or like, wow, you know what? I like this color. It's a Chardonnay, I can tell it's been an oak. This makes sense, that's 3 stars for me. So that's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna go ahead and let you guys pause your video right now. You guys do it. We're gonna do it on our end, and then we'll reconvene here in a second. Welcome back there, guys. We just finished with our assessment. I think hopefully you finished with yours at home. And we'll show you how we scored it. So for me, you have all these different hues, right? And then the intensity. White wine's a little harder on intensity because you're not going to see all these crazy hues. However, for me on the intensity, I said it was kind of between pale to medium. I really couldn't make up my mind because it did have like a little bit of for me, I was seeing kind of that straw goldish color in there were the 2 that I picked. And I said that it was like a medium to kind of pale intensity of those color hues there, even though really white's gonna be the hardest one to pick the intensity on. And I personally said it had 3 stars on the overall appearance because I didn't see anything I didn't like about it. I thought it looked the way it should look, and I think it's actually looks really pretty in the glass, and I'm excited to get into this next step. I think the first parts are always hard, right? Because I don't even know if you noticed early on, I immediately wanted to start sniffing, and I wanted to start, because you want to get into the wine, but it really takes a second to analyze each step of this, so be patient, guys. But Fabian, how'd you score it?
Pretty similar. Definitely said that as far as intensity, I would probably say medium. As far as the hue, I said straw and gold. And then I also did give it 3 stars as far as for visual. Part of the reason why I gave it 3 stars is because there's not really any visual defect. So as far as visual defects go, I would probably give it 2 stars if it had a little bit of a haze. And I'd probably give it 1 star or no stars if there was chunks floating around at the bottom of it. Which it happens, sometimes you get some tartrate crystals. Tartrate crystals I probably wouldn't score very low for, but if there was some chunks of lees and stuff like that, I'd probably, knock some points off for that. So yeah, but I'm pretty close to what you're saying, medium intensity, straw and gold, yeah.
So Fabian and I are in agreement. Let's see if you guys are too at home. So let's jump into the next step. So you're gonna give it a big swirl, okay? So you're getting those aromatics coming out of that glass at you. And then the next thing you're gonna wanna do is cock that glass a little bit and get your nose in there. Now some people, like Fabian will kind of show you, that maybe they smell a little differently here. versus with their nose in the air. It's all kind of up to you and where you smell best. I've kind of noticed that for me and my nose shape, which I guess probably has something to do with it, but I need to get it a little further in the glass, and I cock my glass a little more. I'm just trying to smell to see what if I smell anything. So for you, I mean, if anybody's had the allergies lately, you know when your nose is clogged, you really can't taste anything. So taste is such a huge component of what you smell, such a huge component of what you taste. So for me personally, smell's always a big thing. But what do you kind of smell, Fabian? Any words that jump out in your mind right now?
Well, so one thing whenever I'm smelling, like Jasper says, I like to start with the glass a little bit further away and allow the alcohol to evaporate the aromas towards my face. There's a lot of science as far as like the way our noses work as well. And one of those things is that, you know, your nostrils switch as far as like the dominant nostril throughout the day. So keep that in mind. Sometimes it's your right nostril, sometimes it's your left nostril. But also give yourself time for like the aromas, because sometimes you'll smell something right here totally different from right there. So just like, you know, take your time, smell it from both ways. As far as stuff jumping out.
Now let me pause him real quick. So as someone's telling you stuff, it's kind of fun to also have your nose in it to see if you pick up what they're telling you. Now some of that is a little bit like, aha, but some of it is also sometimes you're like, I don't smell that either. That's okay. Everybody smells and tastes differently. Go back in.
Also on that note, it's important for whenever you are filling these out with a group of people, for everybody to like let each other write down everything they're smelling first. You can persuade people pretty easily, so it's best to just kind of write down everything you can think of, and then after everyone's done smelling, then you start sharing. Because it's kind of like, don't think about pink elephant, you're gonna think about a pink elephant. So it's important to just really get everything on paper and then I'll share.
We're gonna go ahead and pause, and this is where you sit and talk together. We're gonna talk a little bit, and we're gonna come back with you and tell you what we smell and how we score it based off that. Hey, welcome back, guys. So if you have not just finished smelling, take your few final sips there. Excuse me, sniffs. So that's a good Freudian slip, but it should tell you that you should not be drinking this yet, okay? Do not taste yet. Do not try it. Grandma, do not be getting in early, okay? That's all of you guys. It's really hard when you're doing this, but it is important to try to keep these different parts of your sensory separate. Your first inclination is put it up to your mouth and drink it, but it's gonna kind of weigh you in on these other ones. So remember that, guys. With that, what do you smell, Fabian?
With this one, I'm getting a lot of like honey and kind of melon, kind of honeydew scent. But yeah, I'm getting, you know, a little honeydew, honey, butter, kind of a oaky vanilla, and then I'm getting a really interesting like peppermint from this one right now, which is really surprising to me. But I enjoy peppermint, so it's like pleasant to me. What about you?
So I have buttery was the predominant characteristic for me. Buttery and butterscotch. I kind of got this like butterscotch note. Also said melon, and I was getting some citrus notes kind of like midway through. But I really enjoy it. I really like it. Now, so this is one of those points in times too when you're saying you're looking at all these stars to score the smell with, right? Why is it important? Well, it's such a big part of the tasting process, and the way that it's enjoyable for you at home. What we're putting in the bottle. One thing I want to point out is the reason why people wouldn't score it well is they're smelling something right now that's not pleasant. So unfortunately, you might be getting in something that maybe it's a corked bottle of wine, so it smells like wet dog or cardboard, or maybe it wasn't something that happened wrong in the winery or something, there was a spoilage problem, so maybe you're smelling vinegar, maybe you're smelling nail polish remover, maybe you're smelling rotten eggs. Those are things that you want to knock it way back for. So there's on this sheet we have a lot of pleasant smells and tastes. We don't give you a lot of the bad ones, but sometimes if you smell something you go, that doesn't smell right. Yes, don't score it on that. This is based off the section. So just because you love the color doesn't mean you have to like the smell. Or if you didn't like the color doesn't mean you have to like the smell. So remember that when you're scoring things on a point system. Obviously, it's all about what you want to drink and buy at home. But if you're doing this with a group, it's just something to take into consideration. And as Fabian said, don't let your friends persuade you. So on that, how'd you score this thing?
I gave it a 5.5 just because I think it's a beautiful nose. I really enjoy it. But it is a little hot, so I can smell the alcohol, but I am very sensitive to alcohol. So that's why I give it a 5.5.
So I just messed up when I took a sip.
I
see.
Yeah.
I did it, guys. But I scored it a 6.
It's nice. It's really nice on the nose for sure.
I scored it a 6. I think it's really pretty. I love it. And I love the way that oak's being showcased on this white wine because it's not something we do a lot in the winery, so it's just so abstractly different for us. So I loved it. As you saw, I'm jumping into the next step, and that's now where we finally get to take our first sip. So what you want to do is give it that next swirl and get ready to sip, and then you're going to talk about what you taste in that first impression. We're going to turn it back to you, let you guys do that, and let's tune back in here in a second. Here's a quick note, guys, something we didn't give you. Here's how you taste, okay? So if you've never seen this before, if you know how to taste, go ahead and scrub past. But if you don't know how to taste, here's how you do it. So I'm gonna let Fabian walk you through it, and I'll show you my way.
So definitely gonna smell it one more time, and then take a little swig. Kind of beat it up and then swallow. Kind of want to aerate it. You want to get it in there, kind of move it around your whole palate, tasting all your taste buds. Yeah, just kind of beat it up and.
Now something to take into consideration, and I agree with that. You want to move it all the way around with your mouth. One of the ways I was always taught is you drink how your parents always told you not to drink when you were a kid, and that's you make a lot of noise, you're pulling in air with it. And that's very important, but also something to take into consideration is that first taste, guys, is mouthwash, okay? It is something, we don't know what you had before this. You might have just brushed your teeth. You might have just had a big sandwich. You might have been drinking something totally different. So that first taste is mouthwash. Don't let it affect what it is. So just think of it as that always. So you want to really coat your whole mouth with that. Take it down, give it a couple more seconds, and then that next sip is the one that's important. So that's how you taste. Go ahead and jump in. So welcome back, guys. You've been awaiting it. You've now finally got to taste the wine. Let's talk a little bit about what everybody thought they tasted and what they thought about it. Fabian, what'd you think?
So right off the bat, I got basically oaky, vanilla, charred marshmallow. So, which is kind of redundant, but it's borderline racy acidity to me, but I like a lot of acid, so it's pretty pleasant. Fruity, well-balanced and crisp. As far as like the body goes, I called it light to medium. Not super light like Chenin Blanc or something like that, or Tidy Whitey. The tannin structure is very low, but a little bit higher than anything that hasn't seen oak. Acidity more on the high side, but I wouldn't say extremely high. And then sweetness, I said dry. It is bone dry, however, the fruitiness of the wine makes it kind of seem a little bit sweeter to me. Really, fruity is the better word for it. And then as far as fruit goes, I said it was pretty ripe. Ripe fruit, just like just like all the fruity flavors in there. So it's nice though. What about you?
I said vanilla, creamy, and then the weird one for me is I got like key lime pie. So I got kind of that perceived sweetness with some of that acid coming through. It made me think of key lime pie because I actually don't really like most desserts, and key lime pie is something I love. So it made me think of that. And I was getting a little minerality coming through. You know what I mean? There's specific minerality that comes from angle, especially, that I can pick up a little bit in the wines. Body, so I was just like down the board. I thought medium body, medium tannins, medium acid, just all right there. And I agree with you. They could kind of go either direction as far from medium, but the medium was the kind of basis for all of them. And then sweetness, same thing. I thought I perceived it as dry. I know it's bone dry, but I perceived it to be dry because I pick up a little perceived sweetness just based off the sense that what the kind of oak is giving to it. And then I thought the fruit structure of it was just right. It was just really nice and bright, and it was juicy. It was just clean. It was something I really enjoyed. So overall, star-wise, I gave it 3. I like where the overall impression is right now at this point in time for me. So we're doing well on this one up to this point in time. But for me as a wine judge, I'm usually a little easier up front and a little harder on the back end when we get into overall impression and finish. Those are the 2 categories that I usually score a little harder. That's just me personally. What did you score?
I did 3 for the flavors, and then actually there are another 3 stars down there for the body, tannin, acidity, sweetness, and fruit. I gave it a 2.5, just because the body wasn't exactly what I'm looking for. But it's very nice, but it's not a 3 yet to me. So.
I could, you know what, I skipped that other set and I see him there staring at me, so that is another 2.5 for me as well. So we broke this up into 2 categories there in 2 different ways that you could score this one little section, and I could see that. So yeah, I could see 5.5 over the overall, but I could see that being a 3 and a 2.5 there, and I agree with you. That's something that I would score it. So score those individually, of course. But with that, guys, we're getting down in here to the finish, which means we're getting into the finish. So we get to talk about how the wine finishes. That's like what the wine tastes like after you've had the wine. And then at the same time, you usually score overall impression, meaning, okay, you now know the finish, you know what you thought about the color, you know what you thought about the body. Did you like it? Was it an experienced wine? Overall impression means like, would you drink this again? Do you not want to ever drink it again? Or would you drink it frequently? That's usually how often I would score this in the category of wine you're getting into. So now, one little wine critique for you, don't be the wine judge that's like, well, I don't like Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And then you just score everything a 1, okay? If that's you, don't play the game. That's not how you judge. It doesn't mean you have to buy Chardonnay, but if you're judging, you take that hat off and you're judging each wine individually by the category they're in. That doesn't do anybody any good if you're just like mad at Chardonnay. It's not Chardonnay's fault. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So with that, guys, pause and here we come. All right, the time everyone was waiting for, we get to get into the finish of the wine here and our overall impression and just overall thoughts. So Fabian, why don't you take it away? Tell me what you think about the finish. So if you don't know and you're uncertain, what do they mean by finish? Once again, it's what you get once there's no more liquid in your mouth. It's that impression you get after you've sipped the glass of wine.
Yeah, so the finish I think is one of the nicest parts about this wine. You said it earlier, and now I can't stop thinking about it. Like the minerality of this wine is awesome. Definitely get a little bit of the alcohol. It's a little bit hot, but I like it right now. It's a little like, so I don't want to use this description, but I can't think of any other way to put it. But like charred wood, you know, I was like, we have fires here, and it smells beautiful inside here right now, and I just get that flavor of like charred wood, and I love it. You know, I love campfires and house fires and all that. But it's really nice and crisp. Yeah, it's dry enough to where it makes me want to take another drink. Like I take a drink, swallow it, and then I'm like, I want another one of those. So yeah, that's why I gave 3 stars for the finishing notes, and then overall impression. I mean, it's just a good wine. It's one of my favorite wines that we've produced, honestly. And so I gave it 2 stars for that as well.
That's funny. So overall, what you end up scoring it?
19 out of 20.
19 out of 20. Okay, so that is high. That is in the gold category at a competition. That means it's making its way out, and it might get to see the next round of battles to where it's up there. So that's great, and it's not often. You know, it's funny. This is the first one you guys watch the score, and you're like, oh yeah, they think all their wines are gold. It's never that way for us. You know, we jump into a lot of wines, and then they're all across the board on what we do, and even on what's coming out of a facility. We would hope nothing ever leaves our facility that would not medal in any competition, because that's where we make our wine. We want everything to be a gold. But personally, there's some wines you make and you think like, I can get why people would love this, but this is not a wine that I'm going to love to that extent, given the parameters I'm tasting into. So I'll talk to you a little bit about for me. So on the finish, I got like a little bit of like a lemon spritzer. So I've been really into those fancy waters recently, and like the lemon flavored ones, you know, are nice because it's subtle lemon. It's not like the citrus tart, like dry your mouth out, but it's like a subtle lemon. And then I also get a lot of vanilla. So that's where, you know, where you say in that charred wood, that's where that oak's coming through for me, and I'm just getting that vanilla characteristic, which I love. It reminds me if I had a nice glass of whiskey on some rocks, and then get that little tiny bit of those rocks glass on the very end, where I'm getting all that vanilla coming through and not the alcohol. So I think it's super beautiful when it comes to that. And my overall impression is the same thing. You know, it doesn't have to be this big elaborate novel, but you know, yours is like good, great, like I love this. Mine's like, I love it. It's honestly probably one of the favorite Chardonnays we've ever produced. I think that this is, which Chardonnay's tough, guys, because it jumps around everywhere, and your consumers like Chardonnay a lot of different ways and know it a lot of different ways, and it can be done so many different ways. So for me, I think this is one of my favorite Chardonnays we've ever produced. Probably definitely way up there in some of the white wines that we produced as well too. So I love it. I gave it 2 stars on my overall impression. For me, I added up all my stars, and I gave it a 19 out of 20 as well. So kind of funny, couple little areas we were a little off, but for the most part, I think both love this wine. So I hope you guys love it at home. I hope you got to get all these little fun with this, and you can do it. If there's any questions you have, feel free to reach out. If there's any feedback you have on our sheet, feel free to let us know, and we want to get these out to you guys more often. So with that, come see us. We hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and from our family to yours, we love you, and cheers.
Cheers.
So we got another Christmas present for you guys a little early here, or a holiday present, if you will. The next wine we're gonna put out is Petite Sirah, so it is live now. Sam has done a favor for us and put it up on the website, so if you buy now, you can do another one of these with us on January the 6th. So jump on, buy now, it is active, and we can do another one of these together with some Petite Sirah, which I'm really excited about.
because I took home a couple cases from when we bottled,
You never share. Just kidding.
and
Never
it was
share.
it's great, guys. Stay tuned. Cheers.
Cheers.